Hey, well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the United Way Greater Toronto Black Leadership and Recognition Breakfast entitled Youth Success and Empowerment, a conversation about resiliency and strategy being used to support the Black community out of COVID-19. Today's event is presented by the Black Community Advisory Council of the United Way of Greater Toronto. My name is Lyndon King, and I'm the chair of the BCAC, and I will be your host this morning. Before we begin, I would like to do a land acknowledgement. I acknowledge that the land I'm standing on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississauga of the Credits and the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is now the home of diverse nations, Inuit and Métis people. I also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We also acknowledge all treaty people, including those who came here as settlers, as migrants, either in the generations or in generations past, and those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly forcibly displacement, Africans brought here as a result of transatlantic slave trade and slavery. Today, I pay tribute to those ancestors of African and origin descent. Thank you. Now, before we begin, we have a few house rules that I would like to mention. And you guys are probably thinking, hey, we're virtual. How could we be having house rules? This guy's probably wearing half a suit. But we do have house rules because we like to make this event more engaging. And what we would like to do is, one is to ask people to turn their cameras and videos on if possible. I know there's a lot of beautiful people that's attending this event today, and we'd like to see your faces. So please engage and turn on your camera. We also ask that when you welcome the speakers, you show award winners or ask questions, that you participate by using the engagement icons, that you can use mobile phones, while your engagement icons located on the more and on the control panel. So example, you have your clap icon, your thumbs up. So everybody please try and use those. Also too, we're gonna have a platform that we're gonna be using this morning. It's called Slido. And that is gonna be used through your mobile phones. And what it's gonna do, we're gonna send you to the website. We're gonna ask you to look at the pin, and it's gonna ask you a question. So that's one of the engaging things that we're gonna be trying to do this as well. Also, the manager of our Zoom account will be keeping everyone on mute for most of the event, just so that we can keep the flow of the event moving. But if there's a way, your engagement icons can come in handy as well. So for the panel session, we will also be using Slido. Again, you can go to the link and add your questions, and then it will pull the most popular questions to be asked to our panels following, and we will share those questions. Also too, just a reminder, and you don't have to do it, most people probably are in a panel view where you're seeing everyone on the screen. If you'd like, you can choose your panel view to only be the active speaker, and you'll only be seeing the person who is speaking appear on your screen. So again, those are the house rules for now. I would like to share in some of the engagement things. So I'm not sure if anybody's doing the engagements. So what we would like to do too is, when you're in the engagement, try and big up yourself. Tell us where you're from, right? And again, this is virtual. If you got your cameras on, you could even try waving a flag or something, right? So that we know you're from. If you're Canadian, wave that Canadian flag. If you're a Raptors fan, wave that Raptors flag, because you know we're going to be having Jamal McGlory here as our honorary chair. So again, please try to be engaged as possible during this event. So again, it's on the screen. Join us at slido.com, hashtag 17873. What city are you from, folks? What city you're from? We're gonna try this. Let's do this. Tell us where you're from. We know there's people from certain parts. Oh, there we go, Mississauga, Toronto. Mississauga is in the house. Toronto, nice. Caledon, I saw Caledon there. All right, that must be Alan Thompson. Must be the mayor they're representing. I love it, I love it. So I see that we all have a handle on this. Also, we will be, for all you social media freaks that are out there, we invite you to also participate on our social media platform, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, by using the hashtag BHM Resiliency. Again, that is hashtag the letter B, the letter H, the letter M, Resiliency, RESILIENCY. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, February is a wonderful month for us as we celebrate Black History Month, acknowledging the contributions of Black Canadians, past and present, but it doesn't and shouldn't stop here. Hopefully, after today, you will leave knowing a little more about incredible Black Canadians in your local cities and also feel informed and empowered by the conversations today. We know that through our history, education has always been an important tool that has been used to empower our people. And unfortunately, in some situations, used to restrict our potentials. Today, we are fortunate to live in a society that values the importance of education, but that does not mean there's no room for improvement. Today, we are here to engage in a conversation on how our community remains resilient, how we continue to support and help our community and our youths, also how all of us can support the efforts, including our public institutions. On that note, get your list of names ready because soon we want to see all the names of incredible Black Canadians who have had or continued to support our youths, families, and prosperity of our communities. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome a person I consider a good friend and our honorary event chair to share some remarks and welcome you to today's event. Jamal Magloire is a former NBA All-Star player known as Big Cat, who is currently an assistant coach and community ambassador for the Toronto Raptors. Jamal's passion is basketball, but he is equally passionate about giving back to his community, whether it be through the arts or helping kids through the power of sports. In 2017 of March, Jamal launched his own foundation. The Jamal Magloire Foundation is a registered charity that is dedicated to improving the lives of youths who lived in economically deprived areas and help them attain academic and social skills through the power of sports and positive motivation. This message is rooted in the mission that youths deserve a chance to dream. Ladies and gentlemen, and I said it before earlier, please use your icons, the clap, the thumbs up. We need to give this man a warm virtual round of applause. Please welcome Mr. Jamal Magloire.
Hello, everybody. Very honored and humbled to be here. First off, I'd like to thank Lyndon King, the CEO of United Way. Thank you for this opportunity. Chris Thompson, Arlene, both co-hosts for this event, and Danielle Zanotti. I hope I'm mentioning that okay. Again, I'm very honored and humbled. I've been a part of this event 2 years ago in Peel. Now I've heard that it's kind of broadened and included the Toronto, Peel, and York region. So kudos for you guys for making it even bigger and better than it was 2 years ago. I appreciate, again, you including me in this event and your commitment to, Black businesses and Black excellence. And I'm kind of passionate about the same thing. I've been involved in the community for a very long time, and I'm always looking up ways of broadening my horizons. And this is just another initiative that I believe in and believe in the good things that you guys are doing. So thank you for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to some positive engagement and ways that I could help young people get better in our community through this pandemic and, the other pandemic, which most people don't talk about, which is some of the social injustice that us Blacks go through. So thank you guys for having me, and I'm happy to be here.
All right, well, thank you, Jamal Magloire. Ladies and gentlemen, please use your icons. Clap it out for Mr. Jamal Magloire. But Jamal, before you go, I just want to thank you for all that you're doing in the community, especially for the young people, and also to the fact that you're giving back by having food drives. And I see you out on TV with your Tim Horton truck and giving out stuff in the community. So I applaud you for that, sir.
Well,
and I know you're
that's
also, sir, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry to interject. That's so small in the bigger scheme of things. I think that we all could do our part in this community, through COVID, or even before COVID or after COVID subsides. I think us Blacks have been so resilient thus far. We continue to fight social injustices. We continue to push through, inheriting ways to become better people, work harder, be smarter. And that's why I'm around, and that's why I'm here to help, is just to try and pass on the knowledge and the experiences that I had to younger people, so they may not have to go through the same pitfalls or shortcomings I did. And that's just our job as adults at this point, is to try and make our communities better through the things that we've went through, and trying to listen to them and help them as well. So I'm here in any way that United Way needs me. I'm very, very passionate about this, and that's why I started the Jamal Magloire Foundation. That's why I'm always trying to help the community, is because I'm one person, and I know that's not enough. But I think if everybody does a small part, whether it's helping the elderly by shoveling shoveling snow, mowing lawns. And this is through COVID. There's no excuse for not trying to actively get involved in some of the initiatives in our community, the YMCA and such, to make this place better. There's no excuse. I know we can't be outside, but there's ways virtually, like we're on Zoom right now, that we could better ourselves and better each other. I think about the kids that are struggling right now in virtual school, helping them with their classes, and helping them with, using the computer. I mean, I need help using the computer from time to time. I'm usually on the basketball court, so I could appreciate the frustration and some of the challenges these kids have. So even though we're going through the pandemic of having COVID-19 around, there's still ways that we can give back to each other and give back to our Black community. I think about supporting our Black businesses, supporting our local businesses, in trying to help them sustain, economic solidarity. And the foundation is working. My foundation, the Jamal Magloire Foundation, is working harder than ever than trying to find creative, innovative ways and giving back. And it's definitely a challenge, because everything is more or less virtual, but again, it's no excuse for us. So, Coach Nick Nurse tells us all the time, there's no excuse. Find creative ways to home and reach your audience and get to the point, because, the games are going on and we still got to win. So I've taken that word of advice and have tried to apply it not only to the foundation, but to my daily life skills. Through COVID, I found new and innovative ways to improve myself, through meditation, through yoga. I learned to cook. I caught up on cleaning and organizing the house and my life, because, so often than not, before this pandemic started, we were on the go all over the place, and forgetting some of the small things that were important. So it was a way to do some soul searching and better myself. And I think I'm a better person now because of it. So you young people out there, you know, find creative ways to better yourself and to better your community. It may not be the few things I mentioned, but you guys have a chance to do some great things, greater than, you know, Mr. King and I, that is more necessary than more necessary now than ever. You know, with some of the challenges that us Blacks and us young people go through on a day-to-day basis. So we believe in you, we love you, and I'm here as a sounding board for anything that you guys may need and want to do to improve yourself. So again, thank you. I could go on and on because I love this topic and I love trying to give back, but I know there's some other speakers, and I will definitely chime in as this presentation goes on.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jamal. And you know, we love you too. And definitely those words of encouragement. We are a resilient people, and we appreciate what it is you're doing for the community. Jamal, I know you're an individual who loves to take a lot of pictures with the community as well. So we're going to just ask you, I know it's a little bit difficult on Zoom, but if we could get a picture of you, I don't know if you want to bring in the rest of the Raptor team as well, but no, I'm just kidding. If we could get a picture of you, and I'm not sure who we're going to all have included as part of the picture, but if you could do that first, that would be great. And also too, if Mass Camp opens, you know I'm going to come and be tasting some of your cooking, right?
Absolutely. I'm looking forward for us all getting together one day, but right now I think the most important thing is just trying to stay safe, you know, wash your hands, wear a mask, social distance until this pandemic subsides. And I hope, you know, one day we could all get together in peace and harmony and jump up and have a good time again. But until then, you know, we have to do things virtually, and we have to do things the right way according to our local, state, and federal rules.
All right. Thank you, Jamal, and well said. And again, thank you for being as part of this breakfast again, once again.
Very honored, very humbled. Thank you.
Okay, big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see those icons up. Come on, claps. Let's go. Clap. Yes, there we go. There we go. Thank you. Thank you.
I see you, Chris. Thank you.
Quickly, so we're gonna try to do this very quick. So everybody, we're gonna try to do a picture. We usually do it. So I'm gonna do a print screen. I'm gonna count it down. You can do your own print screen if you want to capture the experience. So I'm just gonna count it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Smile. Okay, thank you. We're gonna do one more. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Smile. Thank you, everyone. All right, back over to you, Lyndon.
All right, thank you, Chris. And thanks again, Jamal.
Thank you.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna keep this going. And I have the honor to invite another good friend. And this person does not need an introduction. And again, once again, a warm virtual welcome for Mr. Daniele Zanotti, the Chief Executive Officer and President of United Way of Greater Toronto, to say a few words. Over to you, Daniele.
Words of youth success, empowerment, and resilience in the invite. Thank you all for joining. Words of welcome from the most debonair Lyndon King. Thank you, Chair King. Words of support and solidarity from our legend, Jamal Malior. Thank you, Jamal. No words from United Way from me. Of all the research and deep partnerships, thanks to so many of you, our investments in Black-led and focused and serving agencies, thanks to so many of you, and so much more we need and commit to do with you. Just a few words from Claudia. When she called to get the recipe for my wife's tiramisu, after hearing me rave about it on and on every webinar and Zoom call over 2020, you know tiramisu, no? My favorite Italian dessert ever. Tiramisu is literally Italian for lift me up. That's right, that's what it means translated. Tira, lift, me, su, up, tiramisu. So you get these Italian ladyfinger biscuits. dip, dunk, drench them in a bowl of espresso with lots of alcohol. You layer a base of biscotti, then you add a heaping amount of mascarpone cheese with cocoa. Dip, dunk, drench, another layer of biscotti, then another base of mascarpone. You get it. Repeat over and over. And on top, when it's all done, a heaping amount of cocoa again. It takes a while to make and a while to sit and mix and melt and a while to mix magically in your mouth. The biscotti, the espresso, the cocoa, the alcohol merging. And if it's done well, believe me, it will lift you up. But I digress. So Claudia texted me during one of our webinars where I had also digressed talking about tiramisu. And she says, can I call you? Sure, I text back. And then Claudia's first words on the call, as soon as I picked up the phone. The problem with resilience is you. And I was like, what? Didn't you call me to talk about the tiramisu? And she's like, no, I don't want to talk about the tiramisu. I called to tell you how frustrated I am every time I hear someone say, you are so resilient, Claudia. Kind of nice code words for you are so on your own, Claudia. Now she's got me paying attention and I'm wired, like there's a quad shot of espresso running through my veins. Every time I tell my exhausting daily schedule, she says, I get up at 4 a.m. to get out the door by 4:45. I drop my sleeping babes off at a neighbor on the 5th floor. I walk to the bus in the dark because there's no route in blocks of my building. I punch into my first job at 7 a.m. Then I start my second job at 4 p.m. I walk home in the dark at 9:30 at night because there's no routes in my block close to my buildings. I pick up and kiss my sleeping babes to start again the next day, 5 days a week. And people say, you're so resilient, Claudia. No, she says, I'm exhausted. The problem with using resilience, and you use it a lot, Daniele, is it takes power off the hook. Like I'm supposed to just bounce back. Proud, strong, coping, hell yes. Coping Claudia has got me tongue-tied and silent. I'm playing the definition of resilience in my head. It's from the Latin word resilire. It means a spring, literally a spring, that when you put pressure on it, it pushes down, recoils, and springs back. But just to the previous status, just springs back to the previous status, to her 2 part-time jobs with no benefits and sick days, to no childcare that she can afford at least, no housing that doesn't leak or reek. Claudia cracks my silence. Whenever you use the word resilience from now on, Daniele, can you please talk about the stuff that really holds me back? You know, racism, poverty, gig jobs, no affordable housing, no affordable childcare, a freaking bus route that comes close to my building. I'll take care of bouncing back. I just need some system change to help lift me up. Now let's talk about tiramisu. I haven't let all of this Claudia talk stop melting mixing, merging in my head and heart since. And I want to thank you for joining, thinking, talking, committing to do the same here today with us from wherever you are. The future is now. Happy 2021 Black History Month, friends. Cheers.
Well, thank you so much, Daniele. And resiliency does start with us. And well said. And Daniele, I just want to thank you for your leadership over the years with regards to the United Way Black Advisory Council, and also for your leadership with regards to pushing United Way to give back and support the community in numerous ways. So thank you. And I'm not sure if we're going to take a picture with yourself again, like we did with Jamal, but we're gonna okay, all right. So moving right along, ladies and gentlemen. And like Daniele said, we want to keep you guys engaged. Let us know where you're from. I know we mentioned earlier with regards to the Slido. Thank you. It's up on the screen. Go to your cell phones. Go to slido.com, #1783. Big up yourself. Tell us where you're from. Also, tell us who your heroes are with regards to Black History Month, and let us know. I don't see anyone using it. I don't see any texting happening. Oh, there we go. South Africa, Paris, France, Tampa, Florida, Trini in the house. Wow, Jamaica, Boyaka. I love it. I love it. We are getting a lot of traction, ladies and gentlemen. This is great. And to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, this is a historic event for us this morning because this is the first time we're doing this virtually. And it's actually the first time that BCAC is doing it with the other regions as well. So, hey, this is great. And we're getting an overwhelming response. And I am loving it. I'm loving it. So it's that time of the morning. Guyana, what? UK, Ireland, Toronto, Canada, Barbados, I love it. Texas, Nigeria, nice, nice. This is, I'm born Jamaica. All right, everybody is proud of their heritage and their roots, and that is what Black History Month is all about. We as resilient people. I'll just leave the screen up for a bit so that everyone can see where we are getting a lot of hits from. Oh, and sound. You're lucky you didn't have to drive in this morning for the breakfast. Okay. Philippines, nice. Zimbabwe. Saskatchewan, the Philippines, Scarborough's in the house. Karachi, Pakistan, love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so, and you know what? Round of applause for the people behind the scenes doing a great work with regards to putting on this event virtually. Our tech team is doing a tremendous job. So again, let me see those icons happening. And thank you all for turning on your video cameras as well. Okay, so we're at a point in our program now where we're about to honor local heroes and leaders in our community. You know what? This event will not be an event without my friend, Kathy McDonald. I don't see you on the screen, but I got your text. Okay, so we're at a point in our program where we honor our local community leaders by recognizing our award recipients. Also, I'd like to just remind everyone that you might have to adjust your volumes on your computer for some of the videos that we're about to play. Our first award is the Community Leadership Award. This award is presented to a member of the Black community who exemplifies the mission of values of United Way of Greater Toronto. Nominees demonstrate outstanding civic leadership through dedication to success of the Black community using innovative approaches to meeting community needs. Now, when we do have all these committees and awards this year, it's very difficult because we get a lot of good people that are deserving of the award. However, this year we have 2 winners. And our first winner is Adebola Adafeyoje of Afro Women and Youth Foundation. Here we go. Whoops. Can we play the clip for Adebola?
Because you're going to read the second one. Read the second one first.
You want me to do the second one as well? Okay, our second winner is Flodine Charles Friedel of Caribbean African Canadian Social Services. CAFCAN. Please play the clip.
My name is Sandra Whiting, and I am pleased as punch, tickled pink, and honored to have nominated Floydine Charles Friedel for a Community Leadership Award. It was Representative John Lewis who said, "The hungry cannot wait. Talk is fine, discussion is fine, but we must respond." Floydine always responds. She steps up to the plate, not only to feed the hungry, but to feed the minds of her community. She's a force to be reckoned with. She gets others involved. She epitomizes excellence. She thinks strategically with a commitment to community that is truly Talawa. She recognizes we are our people's keeper, and she has a clear understanding of the work that needs to be done and will be done. Congratulations, Floydine. So very well deserved.
Okay, so we are going to go to our other winner, which is Adebola Adefoye. And please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing anyone's name. Please play the clip.
My name is Paul Adefoye. I have known Adebola for over 5 years now. We've worked together on several projects. Adebola is a very resourceful person, and she has stayed true to the work of empowerment, leadership, development, and mentorship of African women and youth in Toronto and the neighborhood. No day passes by that Adebola do not get to consult or research or get involved in networking, in meetings, and always looking for ways to better support women and youth. I'm so proud to nominate her for this award. I believe she is qualified, highly engaged, involved in the services to the community. She's consistent, and she has an unwavering commitment to the well-being of the Black people. Thank you.
Thank you and congratulations to our winners, Adebola and Floydine Charles Friedel. Okay, so our next award will be our Leadership in Business Award. This award is presented to a business leader in the Black community that exemplifies the values of United Ways of Greater Toronto. The award recipient demonstrates outstanding civic and philanthropic leadership through commitment to meeting a need in the Black community in Peel. The Community Leadership Award is presented to Beverly Griffiths of Jerk and Barbecue Haven Restaurant. Please play the clip.
Hi, my name is Antoinette Edwards, and I met Beverly at work. We're both social workers in the region of Peel. Beverly is a very kind, patient, and caring person. She has made many donations to local food banks and different organizations in the community. Beverly has helped people that are in need. If someone is hungry and they come into her restaurant, Beverly is willing to give them food, and to people that do not know where the next meal is coming from. Beverly show appreciation to her staff while telling them thank you. Beverly, congratulations on your award.
All right, and congratulations, Beverly, on your award for the Business Community Award. And thank you for keeping our bellies full during the COVID-19 pandemic as well. And finally, we save the Youth and Leadership Award next. The Youth Leadership Award recognizes and rewards an emerging young leader from the Black community. The recipient demonstrates outstanding civic leadership through unwavering loyalty and commitment to the success of the Black youth in Peel. This year's youth leadership is presented to a fantastic group and a team who supports Black youths for over 10 schools in Peel. This year's winners are Tiana Brown, Crystal Campbell, and Jerry Small. Please play the clip.
Good morning, everybody. Sharon Douglas here. Happy Black History Month to all of you. I'm always excited at this time of year to celebrate with all of you. This morning, it is my honor and my pleasure to present the BCAC Youth Leadership Award to our Black Youth School Success Initiative coordinators, Tiana Brown, Crystal Campbell, and Jerry Small. They are our youth engagement coordinators that keep BYSSI running and make it look easy. They are the role models. They are the youth of the future that we speak about, but the media never picks up. Today, we are proud to acknowledge their great work and the amazing role models they are to the youth in both school boards that we work with. Congratulations, guys. Keep up the good work. And thank you.
Well, thank you again, and congratulations to all of our winners. And thank you to all the people who took the time to nominate our wonderful award winners as well, and for the amazing work that they're doing in our community. However, ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking you to still remain engaged. I'm not seeing those claps. I'm not seeing those thumbs up. I don't know, maybe I'm in a different view and I can't see it, but again, please use those icons, use your Slido platform, use your hashtag, tweet this out. Let everyone know that we are celebrating Black History Month virtually. We cannot do it together in face-to-face. However, we are continuing this tradition. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to move into the panel session of our event. I would like to welcome Mr. Chris Thompson from the United Way of Greater Toronto, who is in the Community Investment Staff Lead for the Black Community Advisory Council. This young man is doing a tremendous job, and I'm going to turn it over to you for a very insightful and meaningful panel discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys have been a great audience this morning so far. And again, I encourage you, please continue to remain engaged. And I'm going to now turn it over to Chris. Chris, over to you.
Thank you, Lyndon, and thank you for everything you do as the BCAC chair. You continue to make the group feel proud, and you do a great job, and you're doing a great job so far. But all right, so for those of you who don't know, the panel session of our event represents our opportunity to speak truth, speak fact, learn together, and provide direction to move forward together. Our topic is resiliency and strategies being used to support the Black community out of COVID-19. Please note that while we will be keeping the audience muted and the chat box off, but you will be able to send your questions to us through platform Slido, where you will be able to get a chance to actually ask some questions in the second half of our panel. I will facilitate the discussion for now, and hopefully we'll cover most of the topics and sections you want covered, and hopefully hear that. And then once we get to that section, we'll put up Slido and you'll be able to send your questions, and I'll let you know how we do that at that point in time. So let's bring on our panelists in our virtual format of doing this. So first up, we have Janelle Hines. Janelle Hines is the founder of Helping Hands, a non-for-profit that aims to assist young people with building their skills and careers through volunteer, entrepreneurship, and early career development. She is a public speaker, an advocate for social innovation, as well as a diversity, equity, inclusion, and strategic consultant. Recently, Janelle was chosen as the only Canadian on Forbes Top 30 Under 30 list for achievements in education. All right, I'm going to keep going here so we can get everybody on and we can do some clapping. Charnette Martin. Charnette Martin is the executive director of Anchor, formerly known as the Vaughan African Canadian Association. She is an award-winning experience, equity, and inclusion consultant, speaker, workshop developer, and facilitator. She is a published author who has written 2 university courses on equity and inclusion. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology with a focus on race relations, a Bachelor of Education, and completing her Master's of Education from York University. Her greatest accomplishment is being a mother to her 2 children. Welcome. We also have Maxine Wright. Maxine is a senior supply chain leader at P&G, Procter & Gamble, one of the world's largest consumer goods company and home to brands such as Tide, Crest, and Bounty. She is the founder and chair of the P&G Professional Network that she leads with the intent and purpose to deliver the business by enabling the career development and aspirations of its members. Maxine is a strategic leader who empowers others to make a difference within their sphere of influence. Maxine also enjoys gardening, music festivals, and road trips with some thrifting. And finally, we have Jamil Javani, who is the Government of Ontario's advocate for community opportunities. Jamil grew up in a mostly immigrant community in Toronto, where he was nearly lost to feelings of hopelessness, anger, and hate. At the age of 16 years old, he was labeled illiterate by the public school system, but Jamil turned his life around with the support of role models and mentors. He went on to graduate from Yale Law School and teach at Osgoode Hall Law School, and he dedicated his career to supporting youth facing challenges like he did growing up. In December 2019, the Government of Ontario appointed Jamil as the province's first ever advocate for community opportunities and special advisor to the Premier. In his role, Mr. Javani is working to open lines of communication between communities and the government to empower community members to enable them to increase their participation in government decision making. Welcome to you all. I thank you for joining us today. You all were chosen and asked to come on because you bring a diverse set of lived experience, worked experience, volunteer experience, and also in different areas of your community work across regions. And we'd like to hear from you all on major issues. So how this is going to work is, for the first section, I'm going to just ask some background questions, give you all a chance. I'll try to ask that you try to keep to 1 minute or so, and we'll rotate back, and then I'll ask some questions directly to the individuals as well. So I'll let you know who can go first and second and third, and we'll do it that way just to keep it going in a virtual setting. But the first question is, the topic of the day is resiliency and strategies being used to support the Black community of COVID-19. As a way to provide context from your perspective, what does resiliency mean to you? And how do you see it in the work you do or the community you're engaging with? So to start us off, I will have Janelle go first.
All right. Well, hi, everyone. So excited to be here this morning. So one thing is, I think I will talk both from the youth perspective as well as a youth leader and advocate. And when I just want to define when I say youth, for me, my work is primarily with high school and university / like college age youth to young professionals. And kind of resiliency, I think, especially with this pandemic, is that, as Jamal said, we were kind of getting Black youth and Black leaders are kind of getting hit with the two pandemics. And, a day that really stands out for us at our organization was Blackout Tuesday. So that was the day that everyone on Instagram had these like black squares, and I have never had as many messages on a single day as that day of people being, I'm stressed out. I have people that are messaging me and not really trying to be allies, but not really knowing how. So I think a lot of Black youth are trying to kind of dealing with that mental health of all the issues that they're dealing with due to the pandemic, like loss of job, loss of security, as well as trying to navigate and understanding how now all people are trying to understand racism right now. And I think a lot of young people, it is definitely difficult. And for us at our organization, we actually came out with a Black mental health guidebook to kind of assist youth along the way. So it had resources from the helplines to just mental wellness activities that they could do. But yeah, I'll make sure I want to keep it short, and I'll pass it on to the next person.
No problem. Thank you. And we will come back around. Jamil, I'd love for you to go next.
Thank you, Chris. And, thanks for the invitation to join you all today. To me, Black resilience means recognizing there has, for a long time now, we're talking hundreds of years, been a difference between the message the world wants to give us about ourselves and what we know to be true about ourselves. It has been a constant struggle of dealing with a world that wants to tell you you cannot do things, that you're inadequate, that you're lesser than other people, that somehow we do not have the ability to be equals, and to deny us that dignity and that respect and that love. And for us to know better and to consistently fight and work hard to demand that respect, to love one another when the world will not love us back, and to show that we are capable of rising above the low expectations that the world constantly gives us. And you look at that in the modern context, and you see that we do not start our lives in the same place. We have an education system that we know right now, we all know right this moment, is giving some kids a different set of outcomes than other kids. So from day one, we know that the world is not an equal playing field, and that Black children and youth being given that inequality from the very beginning of their lives is not seen as enough of an issue, not seen with enough urgency, that we stop and pause and demand a better system before we move forward. So Black resiliency is going through challenges like that, building the kinds of organizations that many of you on this call work in and lead, and being able to say, we know better. We believe better about these Black children and these Black youth, and we're going to do better to support and empower them to exceed the low expectations that the world is giving them. To me, that's what Black resiliency looks like, and it's what it has looked like in my personal life as well.
Thank you. We'll go on to Maxine.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, so for me, Black resilience and how that helped for us in a corporate space. For me, Black resilience is the ability to pivot and adjust and fix when the situation calls, and we do that constantly. But I think in 2020, it really came to a head with all changes that were happening. And for us, we took the opportunity working in a corporate space to take ownership of the dialogue and innovations and to pivot and respond. There was questions on how can we help, what can we do, want to support you, etc. It was an opportunity for us to lead the conversation and change the direction and be an influencer on how we can make the culture of the organization better. And so we took that task on with our full breath on how to pivot and be resilient, and went about setting up a series of workshop about how to become anti-racist. Call it the ARM workshop, anti-racist mindset. And we really set out to put that in place and to train the organization over the year on 4 key aspects on how racism shows up in institutions and how it impacts our community at large. And we really took the opportunity to own our business and put a face and say, the stuff you are concerned about, And we, your colleagues, this is our lived experience in this space. So, we thank you for your support. Here's where we want you to lead. This is how we want you to be part of the process and be part of the conversation and lead some of the conversations. So that's how we flipped and became resilient in the new space that we live in.
Thank you, Maxine. Mac, you can go ahead.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Very happy to be with you. I apologize ahead of time in case I'm not coming clear or I freeze. I'm just having some connection problems this morning. But happy Black History Month to everybody on the call. So resiliency for us really means taking care, I think, of our community, especially our youth. I think that society puts such undue pressure and almost duress on our children to, enter the school system and enter into these spaces already armored up, ready to face and fight what's ahead of them. And so as community organizations, it almost, burdens me to have to teach our children how to be resilient, when honestly, there should be, spaces that they occupy that doesn't demand that of them, that they can freely move and be and learn and have a circle of support around them, where they don't have to be armored up to have to sort of defend their Blackness and defend who they are. But as an organization, we have found that we increasingly have to be resilient, to be able to bounce off the walls when we have barriers in our way, and being able to sort of recollect ourselves and figure out a new pathway, a new way to do things differently, constantly changing, constantly maneuvering. But it's something I think the Black community has excelled at. It's something that we have always done. It is in our ancestry and in our heritage, and we do it well. But I look forward to a time when we don't have to teach our kindergarten kids how to be resilient in school. Until that day happens, however, I think it's important that all community organizations create collaborations and partnerships, and that we take care of ourselves mentally and physically and spiritually, so that in the course of being resilient, we are not chipping away at the very essence and core of who we are.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for sharing. And so the next question I'm going to ask and go through everyone is this one is more on present situations and with regarding to programs and funding and initiatives. So what are some of the programs or funding or initiatives that you believe that have been helpful so far to try to help the community? And so as you go through this time to provide community support, and you can do that first. And what we're going to do is go right back around and ask you where the gaps, because you might be using programs or funding and initiatives, but I'm sure there's gaps. So we'll cover the support side of it first, and I'll come back around to all of you to cover where the gaps and where you think it needs to go next. And so we'll do it this way. So what I'll do is, Shona, I'll just start with you first, and then we'll go back.
You're on mute.
Thank you. So thank you, Chris, for the question. So we've been, challenged, as all organizations have been during COVID-19 and the lockdown, the pandemic. But we've also been very blessed and very thankful and grateful for organizations like UWGT, as well as Red Cross, as well as even our community partners like CAFCAN that's on the line, that we've reached out to when we were trying to get hampers to families over the holidays. We've been very lucky in that sense. I think in terms of where the challenge or the gaps are, it certainly, I think, is with creating infrastructure for the Black community. I found that when we had the lockdown, that organizations from, various different community groups that already had infrastructure in place. So they already had, they were staffed up to the max, and they had, space, and they had room to grow and to build capacity. They felt it was very easy for them to then transition into the COVID-19 pandemic and being able to still offer those services to their clients and to their communities. The gaps are when we don't have the capacity to scale up. We don't have the brick and mortar to have a place to go, or we don't have the staffing to be able to now, creates Zoom calls 5 times, a week, where you have the staff that can actually man those phone calls and man those virtual meetings. So we need to, I think, as a community, really focus in on building up those brick and mortars, having a space for people to go. I know when years ago when I came to Canada from Jamaica, there was probably nothing aside from maybe 1 or 2 organizations. And now, I mean, how many years later, I think we're finally getting our first African Canadian Cultural Center. We should probably have 20 across the GTA by now. So that, for me, that is the greatest and largest gap, is to have space. I think what space affords us, and I've made many deputations on this to our own mayor here in our city, is what space affords us is on a Saturday morning, you have families that can walk into a space and know that there's African drumming going on downstairs, and to the room to the right, there's tutoring services being available, and you smell food cooking in the kitchen because the seniors have a cooking class, and then you hear some other music down the hallway, and there's little Black girls doing jazz and ballet. And then you have a meeting room upstairs where the meeting of the minds are getting together, intellectuals and academics, talking about what the next plan is for the community. That's what space affords you. Space affords you to be able to anchor into a community and to provide services and provide programs. So you're not working out of a coffee shop and a library and permitting out space all the time. So for me, I think the greatest gap in the community across all sectors, whether it's health, whether you're dealing with advocacy or education or politics, government, is we need space. And it's not just the one-off. It's not, okay, well, Barrie, you're going to get one, Kitchener gets one, Toronto gets one. At this point in 2021, there should be a flood of spaces for Black people in the Black community, so that we can anchor our community, so that if seniors need to have a program, we know that we can call on that group and say, can we come by? Do you have space for us? And it's there. So it's so much harder to do the work that we do as organizations when we don't have a legacy. We're not building a legacy for our children. A lot of us are going to pass on that baton, myself included, in a couple of years, to a younger generation. And I will leave, advocacy and community work thinking, in all of these, years, what was the accomplishment? Certainly we've affected people and minds and change, and we've done good work. But what have we left in terms of a legacy building? And so that is where the dollars have to be sort of put. That's where, when we talk about economics and empowerment, that's where we should be talking about, is creating that long-lasting legacy space for our community and partnering with organizations across the board to make it happen. And whether that's from private donations to government help to community groups coming together and fundraising. But we have to really think about leaving a legacy for our children.
Thank you. I'm going to move on to Janelle. You can go next.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel when you kind of talked about gaps, I'm as a youth facilitator, I say I use a lot of analogies. And what I thought about is when you're in those movies and you see people running from building to building, and you're like, are they going to make the jump, or are they going to just plummet? Is what I feel like Black leaders, and even Black youth are feeling like in, these days. So from a Helping Hands perspective, the positives of this is that we were able to get $50,000 from United Way for emergency, for the emergency support fund from the Canadian government. And I will say the day that I got the email, someone else on my team saw the email first and like, Janelle, check the email. And I cried because we actually had to stop our organization in March because our funding was, we were doing in-person events, our funding was actually pulled. We were straight out told, oh, because in our organization was partially remote. I actually spent most of my March and April helping pro bono, helping other nonprofits transition to online. But our funder at that time was like, well, you're not doing your event in person, so you can give back the money. And it was so difficult to now have to approach as a young person that saying like, no, this is done, we can transition our work to online, because people weren't doing it at that time. I actually asked to move online before the lockdown happened. So I think there's kind of this whole thing where we're just running from building to building. And one thing that I do want to bring up in the gaps is that I feel like the Black community, we have to like fight for a very small portion of the pie. A report came out earlier this year saying that Black philanthropy that goes to Black organizations is less than 0.07, if I remember correctly. And I'm like, that is such a ridiculous amount. And there's so many, reasons and infrastructure why we're not a registered charity, we're a nonprofit, because the barriers and the ability for us to be a registered charity requires me to have funding to be able to do audited financials, and most grants do not support that to capacity type of work. And so many other Black organizations are in that. For us, we actually have to, Trustee, thank you to Frontlines. I don't know if anyone from Frontlines is on the call, but amazing organization out in York Weston. And thanks to their support, that's the only reason why we were able to, survive. And I think from the youth perspective, thank God for things like CRB, CSB, which is the Canadian student one, but there were also so many gaps in those policies. There was the volunteer one that, I think a lot of people would be heard in the news that, crashed and burned. And there was the huge issue where when it first came out, when they first announced it, I actually got in contact with a bunch of MPs to kind of talk about it. And I actually knew before they posted what the policies were. And I was actually trying to advocate that a lot of the policies, if you got into the weeds, would actually exclude a lot of youth. And it was very frustrating to be in this position where they're like, who's this little girl trying to, and I've got referred to a lot of times very rudely about my age on like, who am I to try to change government policy? So I think kind of, young people and the Black community are kind of struggling of us just having to compete with each other instead of getting to be on a level playing field with everyone else. And even this summer we got, I managed to get $1,300 in donations. And I remember someone being like, oh, that's such a small amount. I'm like, that actually saved us. That allowed us to cover little costs that we had, that are monthly costs that we, cannot not pay. So I just like to say, I think that it is very stressful to be in this position of a Black, led nonprofit where we're competing with each other instead of getting to be collaborative.
Thank you. Jamil, I'll go over to you. Thanks, Chris. It's a big question, so I'm going to try to be streamlined in my answer. So first off, in terms of what's working and what's helpful, I'll share an observation from within the Black community in Ontario. Michael Pinball Clemens, a name that I'm sure many of us, if not all of us, will recognize. He's a legend in our community. His foundation, the Pinball Clemens Foundation, has been able to work very closely with a lot of the organizations that they give grants to support with some of the issues that have been identified already, with adjusting programming to the virtual space to make sure that staff have the ability to connect virtually, given they cannot do in-person meetings. And also, what I think is very important, that the relationships between youth workers and frontline service providers and young people, that those relationships are not disrupted because the basketball programs or the tutoring programs that they would typically connect through are not able to be in place the same way. I think the Youth Association for Academics, Athletics, and Character Education, known affectionately as YACE in Jane and Finch, Mr. Devin Jones, has done an excellent job of adjusting his programming and working with the Pinball Clemens Foundation. And those are, philanthropists from our community, service providers from our community. It's a story, I think, of how our community has been able to work together to deal with some of the issues. So I think that we have some really promising examples of how to push through the various challenges that we have during this pandemic and continue to serve our young people. And I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that we do have people in our community who are doing that very effectively and leading by example, and setting an example, frankly, that I think people in government need to learn from. And I say that as a person who works with the provincial government. I say that they can learn things from our community, absolutely. In terms of where there are some gaps that I've observed over the last several months, we have of course, a massive economic challenge in front of us. I mean, if there's the health issues related to the pandemic, I think, go without saying, but the economic issues are also very severe. They have taken a great toll on our communities, on neighborhoods where we have large Black populations. The sorts of industries that a lot of Black folks are employed in have either been hit hard, or many of them have continued to require Black men and women to continue showing up for work despite lockdowns being in place, because they are essential workers and frontline workers. And that has also taken its toll on the health of our families. So there are a lot of economic issues that we're looking at here. And of course, a priority for every level of government is thinking about what does it look like, when we get through this pandemic, you know, and certainly we can't say when that will be. We don't know when vaccines are coming. We don't know when we're going to be able to deal with all these consequences. But whenever the time comes where we start to see more people go back to work, where we're trying to imagine what is our recovered economy look like, I think it's really important that Black folks, that Black community organizations, Black families, Black youth are part of the conversations about the future of our economy. That groups who were already struggling in our economy, already lacking in adequate opportunity prior to the pandemic, this is a chance to make sure that as we rebuild the economy, those voices are heard. So to me, that's really where I see some gaps, is making sure that we have the organization in the community to participate in those conversations and have our voices heard. One of the things we're trying to do in my work with the Black Youth Action Plan, which is a government program that has put millions of dollars into Black-led and Black-focused organizations over the last several years. It was up for renewal at the end of last year. And in the November fall economic statement, we were able to see a doubling of those funds from 14 million annually to 28 million annually, which will be an additional 14 million each year as we move forward. That money is in large part earmarked for Black economic empowerment. That was the language used in the fall economic statement. And I will tell you, I fought very hard to have that language used, because I believe it's an important thing for us to start talking about. What does Black economic empowerment look like? So there is an opportunity as we enter the next fiscal year to think about how we use that money to build capacity in our community, to not only build economic development that is going to benefit Black youth and Black families, but also to build our capacity to speak back to government about what the place of Black voices looks like when we think about recovery, and when we think about what the next version of our economy will look like when we are done with this pandemic, Lord willing, as soon as possible. So to me, that's a really massive need. It's a massive opportunity, and it's something we have a clear pathway to action on. My email for anyone who wants to follow up on that in particular is aco@ontario.ca. I would be more than happy to meet with you and connect you with the folks who are working on that in the government as it would be helpful. So thanks.
Thank you. Maxine, you're up.
Okay, so, you know, as Black professionals working in corporate spaces, our opportunity and our responsibility is how do we link our community into the spaces that we work in? And that's part of being able to bring all of you to work. So how do we bring the part of the community that we belong to into the corporate space? So in this year, one of the things, we've had a long-standing relationship with the United Way, that's P&G. And so this year, what we were able to do was how do we broaden that relationship to include specific Black charities in an intentional way. So we went from one partnership charity Black to 3 that we were able to influence and become standing partners with the P&G ongoing plan that we do with United Way. So we moved from 1 to 3. P&G also put in a project called the Black Solidarity Fund, where they matched donations and supported about 45 Black charities specifically. And that fund delivered about $1.8 million to 45 Black charities. The opportunity, however, and the gap for me is, how do we not make that a one-time initiative? How do we roll it forward and keep going? And how do we leverage the 3 new United Way partnership to make them ongoing and become part of our core strategic partnership with charities over time? So that's really the work. The one-time opportunity is great, but we need to make it systemic and ongoing and strategic and become the natural way how we connect with our community, the Black community, in an intentional and purposeful way. And what Jamal said, talking about language is very critical. This year, we were able to, in a space, be very clear and talk when we talk about Black talent and the Black need in the Black community in a way that was positive and affirming, which, 2 years ago, those conversations were veiled under different headings. Now this year, we're specifically talking Black issues, Black opportunities with intent and purpose. So that's kind of where we are in that space.
Thank you so much. And now the question I'm going to ask is going to be individualized just to a couple of you. And then right after this, we're going to have Slido pop up so people can start getting their questions ready and we can start doing that. So you'll see that happen on the screen. So if you see the screen change up a little bit, don't be worried. We're still going. We're just giving the opportunity for audience to put their questions to the side and then they'll get funneled and you'll see me start asking some of them as we go. But for right now, Janelle, your turn up. So we're going to get very specific to, so we'll really want to hear from youth perspective in terms of the direct needs and what they've been going through and kind of what you see on the grounds. As you do this work, being the representative, I know you may not know everything, but as being directly on the ground, Peel and where you are, what is it that you're hearing? What is it that you think they would love to share through you to this audience?
Thank you. So yeah, I think it is about their support system. So even I'm imagining a conversation I had last night, I was facilitating an unpacking equity conversation with a bunch of youth. And the conversation kind of was around right now with virtual school. And I think about it, I had one black teacher in my entire from JK to my undergraduate degree, which was in engineering, where there is 0 Black professors. I had one Black teacher, and that was the one person that when I was debating what program I wanted to do, gave me some advice that allowed me to figure out like how to get into this double degree engineering program. On the other hand, I had a guidance counselor that when I went to her saying I wanted to be a guidance counselor, said no, like didn't think I was capable of it and tried to get me away from the stream. Right now, Black youth are struggling because right now, whether even if they're allowed to do that in school, which right now high school students aren't, if they're in virtual, there is no sense of community and conversation that they get to have. I had a kid last night say that, they're losing their art teacher, who's the only person that has been supportive of them the whole year, since last year. And, they're not going to get them again. And so I think what youth kind of need is that consistent kind of support system. So whether it's coming from within the school, and I'm not saying that families aren't supportive. A lot of times you just need that extra person that's kind of outside your family that you can kind of talk to and build that trust with. So kind of what I really see is that Black youth need that 1 or 2 supporting figures that kind of follow them along and get to be that mentor for them. And that's why, even at Helping Hands, we've started to kind of shift more from a lot of times we kind of help youth with very specific problems, but now kind of saying you can kind of message us with a wider range. And again, we were not a mental health organization pre-COVID, but a lot of the work that we've done since March has just focused on mental health and why we came out with that mental health guide. And right now are even coming up with a second version and are doing every single Wednesday mental health, wellness and mental health initiatives. So I think that's really where kind of the focus is for them. And I think the second part I would say is kind of looking at career navigation. Pre-COVID, already as a young person, them trying to navigate and figure out what careers when we talk about future of work and all these jobs kind of going away and the gig economy, it's like, don't even get me started on the gig economy and how much Black youth are being forced into saying that's their only option, which comes with no rights, no benefits, no time off, and no really like safety or security. So I think it's kind of looking at where are Black youth being pushed into, and as Jamil mentioned, kind of saying Black youth are coming in and are being told what teachers think they're capable of. And if no one else is there to kind of guide them and steer them, they're just gonna go down kind of a lot of times a path that isn't leading to long-term prosperity for themselves and their families. So I kind of think it's those two, like really mental health and wellness and kind of career navigation / job security is really what Black youth need right now from at least the perspective that I work in.
Thank you. And just before we go to the next person, I think Maxine, I'll go to you next from a corporate lens of what you feel, how we can empower other corporates from your experience. What could they do? We have a lot of other companies on the call. What could they do and things like you? But just before you start, just to let everybody know, so that Slido's on the screen. You can either go to slido.com and put in the pin, or if you have your camera, you can just you can put your camera over the scan code and it will take you to the platform where you can actually ask your questions. Make sure you're under the Q&A section. You can just write in a question you'd love to see, but you'll also see a like icon. And if you click the like, then you're just voting and we'll start pushing things to the top. So while we'll continue with these questions, we can start getting some of yours ready so I can get to those in the next 2 or 3 minutes. So feel free to use this to express yourself and ask questions. Please keep it professional and keep it to the task. And these people are giving their time. So we'll try to get to those as well. So Maxine, over to you and your perspective.
Okay, so from my perspective in using the corporate lens, over and above the work that we've started to do this year, or the biggest opportunity that we've always seen in the corporate space is really increasing our talent, increasing Black talent within the corporate space, because there's never enough of us in the corporate spaces. And so that has always been our ongoing mantra. How do we increase our talent? How do we improve the talent supply? How does we get the talent supply to reflect our fair share of the organization? And we continue to do that because our direction is about critical mass. And so we framed that work around, people. And, most companies, people are your biggest resource. You can't run your company without people. And so, as a business opportunity, how do we solve that business opportunity, ensuring that the talent representation is responsive and reflects the community that we serve and the consumers that we serve? So that continues to be our marching orders as a Black professional network in a corporate space, is to get the right level of representation and, talk about it in a way that it's going to drive the ultimate bottom line of the company that you work for, because people is what drives your bottom line. You cannot get anything done without people, and having the right representation is critical. And by having those conversations loudly in a space, the breadth and the E&I plan that has been rolled out corporately has now gone end to end to include what our needs are, with metrics and accountability now built in across multiple platforms. So really being upfront and be intentional what you want to do in the space. As people are open and listening right now, this is the opportunity to put the ask on the table, right? Know what you want and ask for it in a way that links directly to whatever the business priority of the company that you're in. Our needs need to be aligned with the company's needs, and how we get engagement is really talking in that language that makes sense to the companies that you're part of. And so if you're in a corporate space and you don't have an ERG group, this is the time to start to have that conversation, because people are hungry and listening and want to know how to help. And we can be some of the guide and set some of the directions. Like, we're not looking for saviors, but we need to be able to direct the intent and provide a strategy and a vision on where we want to get to and lead that conversation in whatever space that you're in. So that's kind of where we are in that space. Again, be very clear that our biggest opportunity as a community to grow is really to be representative in the space so we can grow our community as a whole. So that's kind of where we are in that space.
Thank you so much. I'm going to ask you, but I'm actually going to ask, just so we make sure we get to some of the audience questions, I'm going to ask you one from that's showing up here in Slido. And so the question is for Jamila specifically. What advice do you have to offer young people who feel that they are limited because of their disability or their challenges?
Okay, thanks for the question, Chris, and whomever asked. Appreciate the question. So I'm going to give you an answer, I guess, from a personal side, and then also from a professional side. So I, was considered illiterate when I was a high school student, which feels like a long time ago at this point. But and when you are told by the school system that you lack the ability to read and write the way your peers do in the only language that you know, right? I mean, it's one thing if they're telling you one language well, but you're struggling with English. English is the only language I knew as a kid, and I was told I couldn't read and write in it. It was very frustrating, and it causes you to wonder a lot of things about yourself and what you're capable of. Now, that's certainly not the same as someone who may have a diagnosed disability or might be dealing with challenges far greater than anything I saw when I was a kid. But one thing that I learned from trying to overcome what I was being told about my own abilities was to identify people who believed in my future more strongly than I did at the time. Unfortunately, it was hard to find teachers who did that. And as a person who grew up, without a father in a single parent home with a mom who was working a lot, I also didn't have that in my home life either. So it took me a long time to find people who would tell me good things about myself and who believed in me and thought it was worth trying to overcome whatever challenges I had to become an effective learner, an effective reader, an effective writer. That is, of course, a very common story in Black history over the last several hundred years, is people going through that same experience, being told they cannot do things, that they're not capable, that they are lesser, and figuring out through the support of their community that they were actually able to rise to the occasion. So I think having the right people in your life makes a massive difference. And to whatever extent we can encourage young people to be critical thinkers about who they let in their life, whose voices do they allow to affect how they see themselves, and how can they identify people who are going to be positive. I think that's very important. This is a lesson that I also carried with me recently. Back in 2018, I was diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer. And it was debilitating to me physically and mentally, especially when I had chemotherapy drugs in me. I couldn't think clearly. There were times where I wasn't able to move physically. I felt like my life was coming to an end and I wasn't sure what to do about it. And it was once again people who had that positive voice of support, those mentors, those role models, they made a difference. And although I credit doctors and nurses and the Lord for saving my life, I would not have gotten to the point where I was asking God for help or going to my doctor's appointments or visiting my nurses if I didn't have the optimism and the hope from other people in my community, in our community, to get me to that hospital and get me to that church and do what I needed to do to get healthy. So being able to rely on others to be a source of support and confidence and hope when you can't do it yourself, I think is so critical. And that is partly why we need our strong communities and our strong families in the first place. From a professional hat, in terms of the government, what do I think the government can do about this? I do believe this is why the government needs to do several things. One, it needs to make investments in community organizations that can provide mentorship and role models. That's absolutely critical. Two, the government needs to listen to the community so that the money is going to places that are going to reach our young people, including those with disabilities or those who've been discouraged as young people, and make sure that the money is going to places that can find those young people, can speak to them, can build a relationship with them. And we can't do that if the government doesn't listen to the community about where effective programming and services exist. And then finally, I think a lot of it has to come back to evaluation of how the money is being used. I will tell you, it's quite frustrating to me how little is being done to measure whether the money that is going out in the name of Black youth is actually producing the benefits for Black youth that it's supposed to. It's something that we've done numerous consultations on with Black community organizations. It's something we're working on right now for the future of the Black Youth Action Plan, is getting an evaluation metric in place that is informed by the community so that we can actually hold the government accountable. You know, if you say you're going to spend money to help a certain group of people, you should have to prove that that's actually happening. And I think that that's something that we're trying to do so that the young people who are most in need get the support that they deserve. So I'm sorry, I know I'm going on for a while. I'll pause now. There's a lot more I could say about this, but I hope that was a helpful answer.
Oh, good. Thank you.
We're gonna. I just want to say a really quick thing. So one of the things as a public speaker I love to do is, I know sometimes come into these things, you could feel depressed. I like to figure out at least one thing that's a mind shift change. I have Jamil's story. One word that I use a lot of my work is underestimated versus underrepresented. We always talk about Black youth or Black people being underrepresented in the professional world. I'm like, we're there. It's that our skills are underestimated. When I walk into a room, people don't assume that I'm a nonprofit leader that has an organization with 5 full-time staff. And one thing that I just want everyone to kind of walk away today is thinking, stop using the word underrepresented, start using the word underestimated. And I think that will shift kind of how we see policies come out, how we see funding come out, is not on how do we get more people just represented, but rather how do we actually show that their skill set or whatever context we're bringing to it, that these people have value and they're bringing it to the table, I think will really shift and help your work, whether it's professionally and you work in the nonprofit sector or you work in the corporate sector.
Thank you. Well, on that note, I did have a question from another audience that I'm probably going to direct to you to start off anyways. So non-for-profit leaders, and maybe the other two could jump in too, but I'll start with Janelle, is what advice can you give to an emerging non-for-profit that have the intention and mission to serve the Black community? So emerging.
I think, it depends on what perspective, I guess. I don't know what the question actor is coming from, but I think it's making sure that you work with community and that you're addressing the need. During December, I ran a youth entrepreneurship initiative where we helped a group of 60 youth actually get funding to start their own community initiatives. And a lot of it was making sure that they really understood the other youth, they were all helping serve other youth. So making sure they really understood what their peers needed. So that's kind of the biggest thing. And, whoever asked that, I would love to sit down and talk to you more, because I'm all really, really big on helping support entrepreneurship. That is a lot of my private consulting, but feel free, pro bono, just send me an email. I don't know which way it is. And I'll definitely talk to you one-on-one and provide you with some very direct, actionable advice.
Thank you. And just so I want to make sure we do the call to action and you're all able to share your point of view. So I'm going to jump into that right now just due to time. And so the question that we have going forward is, what could you share to the audience in terms of what do you feel are ways that they could be a part of the solution moving forward or helping the communities? I think you'll have various sectors that you could share from, toward the corporate, how government needs to continue to help the community, or how youth could continue, or in the family unit. Some of you even spoke to just even the family unit of getting through this time and being resilient. I think I'll leave that to you, how you want to approach it and which way you think you want to share. But I just want to make sure you all get an opportunity to do that kind of call to action, how the community can rally. So I'll start with Maxine first.
Okay, so for me, the one piece of personal commitment that I think everybody can take, no matter where you are in the sphere of things, because I see everybody as a leader. I don't think you need to have a position of power to lead and make a difference. And the one thing that I think folks can really think through is, how do you use your voice to advocate, to support, to bring awareness to issues within our community in whatever space you are. So use your voice and own your Blackness. Own it in all the positive, all of the power, all of the energy that comes with that. Whatever space you're in, you need to use your voice to amplify and talk about what is important within our community and what health looks like and how you can lead it. So, I just encourage people to figure out how to use their own voice in whatever space they live in or work in or focus in, to make sure that this work continues to live and breathe, and that people are aware that this is important and this is an issue that is not going to go away. It's not new. It's just amped up in a significant way this year. However, being able to use your voice and making sure that you are represented and your light shines wherever you show up, that's the conversation. Because one of the things about it, in the spaces that we are, wherever we show up, we make a difference because people notice when we show up. So once you have that visual engagement, use it, leverage it, have a conversation. Do not be the quiet one in the back room, not wanting to say something, because you have the attention. So use your voice in whatever space you play in to bring an awareness and a challenge or a response on something that's important to you. That's my feedback on how we can all play in this game.
Thank you. I'm going to move over to Jamil.
I'll be quick. I think I would just encourage everyone to keep in mind that Black history is a history of people with various strategies and ideas and tactics about how we can overcome inequality and adversity. One of the common threads through a lot of the last 150 years in this part of the world has been thinking about how economics and economic development can be a source of equality for Black communities and protect Black communities from any potential discrimination or prejudice that might hold them back from living up to their potential. From Booker T. Washington to Marcus Garvey to Malcolm X, the idea of economic development and economic growth being a way to guarantee the next generation of Black youth more of a standing in our society, more security, more stability, more protection. It's been a very common theme in Black history, and it's something that I do believe we need to spend more time thinking and talking about today. So I would just encourage you to just, you know, keep that in mind. And if you haven't read some of their speeches or the writings of you know, Black historical figures and writers who were very strong proponents of economic development, I would encourage you to maybe just go back to some of those words of wisdom, because I do think they present some potential solutions to some of the problems we face today, and stuff that we don't talk about nearly as much as I think we ought to. So I'll leave you with that, but, you know, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. And over to Joanna.
Yeah, so I think, you know, I would say from everyone for their personal life, everybody on this call has privilege in some sort of way. Like no one, I know I don't like to say I'm underprivileged, I'm saying I'm differently privileged. So I would say everyone within their organizations, whether that's corporate, whether that's when you're in a volunteer role, is when you see something, say something. And it's a little thing like if you see someone constantly having like, you know, around the corporate table, they're giving advice and no one's listening to them, be like, let's take a break, you know, let's listen to things, say something. So I think it's just those little things. If you see policies, speak up about it. And then I would say kind of on the other side, the other hand, if you have the time or the money, give back to organizations that are doing the great work, and really try to look for the smaller Black-led organizations, because those are the ones that get all the government funding.
Thank you. Thank you all for participating. I'm just on behalf of Charnette, her connection did go, and she shares her regrets that she couldn't continue to listen, but I'm sure we'll be able to connect her with who want to get in connection with her as well. At this time, I just really want to take time to say thank you for bringing your perspective, your experience, being vulnerable in the space with the audience, and sharing today. So if anybody is able, you can do the emoticons and give a thank you to our panelists. If you're able to share it, you know, I'll clap myself. And I just want to say thank you for even participating in this. It's a great conversation. It's one that needs to continue. And I would love for people, if they want to, the hashtag on social media is BHM Resiliency. And the conversation is continuing. There has been live tweeting of some of the comments you're saying and so forth. So that doesn't stop here. But I just want to say thank you at this time. So once again, and I hope to engage you all in different aspects outside of this.
Thank you so much. Do you mind really quickly, today we're launching our Black Future History Makers initiative. So if you know young Black people, please do nominate them. It's on our website, helpinhands.com. And we've done this for the past 3 years, and young people have used this for scholarship applications, law school applications. So just nominate Black youth, and we're talking about that Black youth right now are the leaders, and they're the future history makers that we'll be talking about. So please do nominate Black youth.
No problem. Thank you. And if you send us the link, we'll consider it out in our thank yous and stuff, because we will be doing a follow-up. So right now, basically what I want to do, we're at the end of the event. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. It's been our first virtual one. So hopefully it went well to the best of our abilities. Hopefully you feel that it was connecting across regions and peoples and sectors. You can see from the engagement opportunities. But right now, I just want to give a couple thank yous. So first off, I want to start with our honorary chair, Mr. Jamal McGlure. He gave up his time. He came connected. He's not even in the same country as us now. He's very busy and gentleman, but he still gave up his time to come and participate. So I just want to give a big thank you to him. Also, our BCAC chair, Mr. Lyndon King, who did a great job today as our host. He's been doing a great job with the Black Community Advisory Council of United Way. And that started in Peel, but now it's expanding across the GTA to be bigger and connect. So this was kind of the first initiative of it connecting across the GTA, which you can kind of see. So we want to keep that up. Finally, I want to thank the United Way staff in the background. Kelly's been helping, Stephanie and others are in the background helping us all today. All the award winners, you did a tremendous job on the work you did to be nominated, and the nominators. It was a great effect to have the videos from them. It was a very personal feel, so I enjoyed that as well. And I just want to say thank you to you all. And again, thank you to the audience, everybody who's on the call, volunteers. I know we have some elected officials from different regions and different levels of government, so thank you for that as well. I just want to say a big thank you to all that and all the support. And I hope that you stay connected with us. Go to our website, give and support the work of United Way, give and support the agencies and groups on the call, and we'll connect we'll continue to connect and be resilient through this time in COVID-19. So on that note, thank you and have a great day, everyone.